Everybody. Cassie, are we ready? Okay. I'd like to call the meeting to order, please.
Mrs. De Silva,
Here.
Mrs. Gillis,
Here.
Mr. Valentine,
Here.
Mrs. Messig,
Here.
and Mrs. Rigby.
Here. Pledge of Allegiance, and I would like Mr. Chris Andrus to do the honors. Okay, approval of the agenda. Is there a motion to approve the agenda as presented this evening?
So moved.
Moved by Mr. Valentine. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mrs. Gillis. Call the roll, please.
Mr. Valentine,
Yes.
Mrs. Gillis,
Yes.
Mrs. De Silva,
Yes.
Mrs. Messig,
Yes.
and Mrs. Rigby.
Yes. Motion passes 5-0. Recognitions, Dr. Marshausen.
At this time, I would like to welcome Mr. Charlie Norman from the Ohio Bureau of Motor Vehicles to come up and share some exciting news that we've been working on at the district level.
Thank you. Thank you. My name's Charlie Norman. I'm the Registrar of Motor Vehicles for the state of Ohio and also a Dublin City Schools parent. My son, Henry, is a fifth grader at Eli Pinney. A couple of years ago, just in an offhand conversation, Mr. Valentine and I discussed the specialty plate process in Ohio and how high schools were getting specialty plates around the state to go to important causes. And here we are. How much later was that, Mr. Valentine? Seems like a long time. And that's because this can be a process. There is a requirement for state legislation. So it has to be shepherded through both houses of the legislature. It has to be signed by the governor. And there's also a signature gathering process as well to make sure that there's significant public interest in the creation of the plate. So that can take several years. And so I was happy when it came across my desk a few weeks ago, SB 163, and the creation of the Dublin School Specialty Plate, which I signed off very quickly on and got it over here. And after that whole legislative process signed by the governor, there's still artwork to be approved and design work and a financial piece to make sure the banking relationships are right so that the funds go to the correct place. You'll all be happy to know that the additional $25 you pay for the specialty plate, the Dublin City Schools plate, does not go to the BMV. I wish. However, it's going to a very, very worthy cause, the Dublin Food Pantry. So I just wanted to congratulate you. Thank you all for your hard work. This is really a great exercise in civic engagement, community engagement. Dublin Schools did a great job, and the people of Dublin and Dublin Food Pantry will benefit from all of your hard work. So thank you, congratulations on the new plate, and I do have a commemorative plate I'd like to present. So this is awesome. What it'll look like.
Here you go, guys. Once you hold that. Awesome. We'll get a picture second. Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Appreciate it.
All right. Good evening, everybody. I wanted to say thank you to Mr. Norman first for being here tonight, and I want to bring up Senator Kunze here really quick. She helped support us and helped get the ball rolling. This did take several years, 3. As a matter of fact, which is a lot of commitment and time from our students. So I just want to give her a second to speak.
Well, thank you all. I just wanted to say I am so proud of your students who brought me into the high school, shared with me their vision, and their real commitment to your community should be applauded. They chose the food bank as the beneficiary, as Mr. Norman mentioned, because they really wanted to give back and really show support because Dublin is such a great community. So the students who worked so hard are really the champions of this special plate, and I know that the schools and the community are all going to benefit from the work that was put into this. So it's just a pleasure for me to be here tonight to celebrate all of their hard work. Thank you.
So one of the things I've learned as a principal is that one of the things you should do is when somebody brings you an idea, you get out of the way, right? And you let them do that. So first and foremost, I want to thank our students, and Vivian and Ria are here tonight as a part of the student group that were a group of current students. We also had Parth Gupta, Isabel Santiago, and Cooper Zajac, who are current students, and then former students Brandon and Tyler Dietz, Sal Laparo, Shrijan Pooley, Isabel Richardson, Maria Rivera Alvarez, and Ollie Wood. All of those students took time and committed, whether it was collecting signatures, meeting with representatives, doing all of the legwork and all the different things that are necessary. And then he's not going to speak because he doesn't want to, but come on up here, Ron, really quick. Okay. One of the reasons why this went through, and I'm excited to be here tonight, is Ron's retiring at the end of the year. So this is kind of an opportunity for him, and he's done a lot for Jerome, and this will be kind of when he's driving around Dublin, when he's here, he'll see those plates, and that'll be kind of a legacy that he's left behind. So I want to say thanks for all that you've done. Appreciate you. Okay. Okay. I appreciate all of the hard work and effort. We're excited to do that, and we're going to put those up around school, and we'll try to do our best to get as many license plates in the city of Dublin so that we can get money donated back to the food bank. So thank you again, and we appreciate the time tonight. Thank you.
Mr. Norman, what is the process if someone is interested in getting one of those plates to replace their current plate?
Sure. You can get that online at bmv.ohio.gov or at any deputy registrar office around the state. So in person or online.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Make him look taller.
Ready? 1, 2, 3. Perfect. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Congratulations. Thank you. Thanks for being here. You're like, you want to keep that, put that on your car, don't you? Thank you. Thanks for being here. Thank you.
You gotta switch your tag over, you never know.
Hey, thanks so much. Appreciate it. Thank you. All right, so I'm going to take this one. I'll take this one to school. You get these two. You can have everything.
Now comes the time for public participation, and we have several Grizel students here. And Alana, would you rather have a microphone and speak here, or would you rather go up to the podium? Okay, so why don't you make your way up to the podium, and we look forward to hearing from you. As Alana makes her way up to the podium, when you have a 6th grader reach out who is interested in speaking at the board meeting, so eloquently reached out to our board members, we are so proud of these young people who have worked together. So ladies, I'll turn it over to you.
Cassie, can you make sure that the mic's good for her?
It's on, I think.
Test, test.
Just gotta talk pretty close into it, okay? So don't be worried about getting up there. There you go.
Hello, my name is Alana Kirkpatrick, and these are my 2 friends, Avery and Riley. We all go to Grizel Middle School, and redistricting is affecting all of us. We all helped write this speech, and here it is. Avery wrote this part. Grizel is way more than just a school to me. All of the teachers, all of my friends. Grizel is a place where I feel like I can be myself, and the changes that redistricting has made is changing all of that. And I totally understand that changes sometimes need to happen, but this isn't the best answer. We and tons of other students are having to leave our friends that we've known almost our whole lives. We have helped each other, and we've grown up together, and they understand me. If redistricting moves us to a different school, that means starting back at square one again, and that is hard. I'm not saying that change is always bad. I just think that we should slow down and listen to students and families. We want to be a part of the decision, not just told what's going to happen. Some of the kids at my current school will also be going to Jerome, and Avery is not. She knew that. She was fine with that because she had known for years. I found out about redistricting only a couple of months ago. Barely seeing some of these people again in my life is something that I don't think any middle schooler should have to deal with. And that added pressure of not having friends causes students like us to have mental breakdowns. This added stress to a student is not beneficial for schoolwork, if a student's social life and just their mental health in general. That's why all of these valuable friendships that we are making are so important. If I didn't have my friends like Alana and Riley or my friends like Abby and Claire to help me every day, I honestly don't know what I would do. Please think about what it feels like for kids when big changes like this happen. We are not just numbers or places on a map. We're people with stories, friendships, and dreams. I wrote this part. Some of my best friends I've known my whole life are going to be separated from me. I'm going to lose most of my friend group. Yes, we will get new students, but that doesn't do any good for us or them, starting fresh at a whole new school. So many other students are hurt and scared of starting at a whole new school or being alone for the new school year ahead, and I don't think that's fair. Kids need their friends, especially in middle school. Middle school has been challenging for me this year, whether it's with grades or just trying to enjoy it. My friends make me love going to school and make me actually want to be there. If you ask me about Grizel, I would say so many positive things because I enjoy it, because I have my friends with me. So, these girls I've been friends with for so long have been with me every step of the way, supporting me in school, in my opinion, and make me have such a positive feeling about this school. Riley said if someone is moving to Grizel and wants to sit car, she would gladly switch with them just to stay with her best friends. In our language arts class, we were studying ode poems, and Riley chose to make hers about redistricting. Here it is. Dear redistricting, I love nothing about you. Being split up from my friends, the fun will end. No classes together anymore, not seeing each other every day. Can you take away my pain? Changing schools means losing all of that, the friends I see every morning, the ones who make hard days easier. Please don't move me, I like it here. This school is good enough for me. I don't want to go through this again. Having to meet more random people, I've laughed in these holes, fell in these holes, know every crack in these classroom walls. Why change the zone? What good will it do? I've got my friends, my teachers, my crew. I've built something real in this place I know. Don't take me somewhere I don't want to go. Other schools might have shinier floors, but it won't have my memories, my doors. It won't know who I am or who I've been. It won't feel right when I walk in. I've cheered at games. I've stayed after class. I made this school through memories, my past. Moving me now just feels so wrong. Grizel is where I belong. So please, whoever draws that line, don't erase this little world of mine. I'm not just a dot on a district map. I'm a student who found where they're happy at. Thank you.
I have something to share. First, thank you for sharing your story. Ironically, I shared this on Friday, but when I was an 8th grader, I was redistricted to a new school. And I was separated from my best friend that I had been with since 1st grade. And it definitely, you know, thinking about that is a hard thing to like wrap your mind around, especially, you know, at your age. You've been together for, you know, a really big portion of your life. And so it can seem really big and scary. But our parents really supported continuing that relationship. And so we did so many things together. Even after we moved to different schools, we still, you know, had sleepovers. We still went to each other's birthday parties. When we had dances, we would go to each other's dances at the different schools. We would go to the different games, basketball games, football games, track, everything. We did it all together. And she introduced me to her new friends, and I introduced her to my new friends, and we really just grew our circle of friends. And some of those people that I met through her, I'm still friends with. Some of the people that I met at my school that I went to, I'm still friends with to this day. And so while it may seem scary right now, you never know just what opportunities that might lie ahead. So I understand that it's an emotional thing right now, but you'll get through it. You're strong.
And I just want to, again, thank you girls for being here tonight. I know it's not easy, and you showed tremendous bravery and composure in your eloquent argument about redistricting. And I think that, I don't think there's anyone here that loves redistricting and wants to do it. And you had mentioned about slow down, and can't we just slow down? And the problem is, as the district grows bigger and bigger, and we've had this problem for quite some time, we have put it off as long as we could, really. But what I will say to you, the fact that you're here tonight, that you are speaking about these relationships you've already built as sixth graders is incredible. You obviously have an amazing ability to make friends, and that will translate no matter what school you're in. And as Mrs. De Silva said, I think when you grow as a person and you grow your friend group and you introduce your new friends to your, former friends or your former school friends, the opportunities just get larger for you. And you'll be able to compare experiences with your different schools. And I do know that it's scary, and probably everything I'm saying, you're just like, this is just not what I want to hear tonight. But I know that you came knowing that there is nothing that we can do about the decision. So again, that just speaks to you all as individuals. And I think you have a lot to be proud of tonight. And I think that you are going to be just fine.
All right, Rick, you're up next.
I think we've had this conversation before, but with all the increased building that's going on, especially in the Northwest Corridor, and obviously that has led to your redistricting situation. When are you going to be saturated, and what are you going to do when that happens?
If you shoot me an email, I'm happy to send you our latest housing study. And we've done two things. We've been, for decades, doing enrollment projections. What we're layering on top of enrollment projections is now a housing study. And what our housing study tells us is when we run out of green space in Union County. And I'm pleased to report that's in the early 2030s. And I'm also pleased to report the housing study layered on top of the enrollment projections as of the numbers now, and as you know, projections are only as good as the data you have today. I think we're going to be good with 3 high schools with the addition that we put on here. We're going to keep growing, but we're not going to get to 20,000 students. So I think we do start to level off as we get through the rest of this decade. We have tried everything in all of our power and authority as elected officials and appointees to try to get our friends in Union County to slow down just a bit, and it hasn't been successful.
Why not?
Well, if you were to talk to Barry Adler, who's one of our Jerome Township trustees, years ago when Nationwide Realty was given authority over that plot that's Jerome Village, the township pretty much ceded any authority to determine what goes in. So the area that Nationwide Realty has control over, Nationwide Realty continues to build in. And there is now a Jerome Township master plan, which is in its final phase, both and in partnership with the City of Dublin. We have given input to our Jerome Township trustees. The letters submitted by the city and the school mirror each other with great concerns. And it not only affects the school, it affects the Dublin community. We've had and we've all heard recent conversations about fees for youth sports that we're now bifurcating district residents versus non-district residents in the school district. Because of the stress, some of the growth from outside of the City of Dublin is putting on services by the City of Dublin. And the people who are outside of the City of Dublin don't pay the taxes for the City of Dublin. So we're starting to see more of that pressure. I was asked recently, what would make it easier if the City of Dublin had the municipal jurisdiction over the whole school district. That would make it easier. But we deal with 3 counties, 5 municipalities, 32% in the city of Columbus. So as leaders, we get to deal with all of those different groups. We continue to advocate. And I think the challenge is the city of Dublin can be very upset with what's happening in Union County, but we don't elect the people up there, and vice versa. So there's a lot of cross-jurisdictional challenges.
So I don't understand how that you can have to be responsible for educating kids that you have no control over living in that area.
Well, we don't really have any control over the city of Dublin. If the city of Dublin wanted to do things as a school board and school district, we have absolutely no zoning authority. In fact, if we talk to our friend Mr. Stark, he has to follow the zoning laws. And if you watch some of the things we're doing over at Scioto High School, we just follow the zoning rules. So you all elect these 5 individuals to lead the school district, but our jurisdiction as a school district doesn't extend into building, zoning, and any of those issues. There are places where the city boundaries match the school district boundaries, and in places where that happens, some of these conversations are easier, not because the school district has control over the municipal leaders, but because the same electorate is electing both. And when you have the same electorate electing both, you kind of have the will of the people aligned, and right now we have it all over the place. Yes, you had a question.
How long ago were and by what process were the school district boundaries established?
Well, I'm going to go back a little bit. At one point, Deer Run Elementary was the Jerome Township Elementary School. And going back into the late 1800s, you just had little township schools. During the Industrial Revolution, the little schools came together to form bigger school districts because high schools needed to provide more. So the Village of Dublin schools was here, and then you had Perry Township join Dublin, and then you had Jerome Township join Dublin. And all of those townships, when they started to come together, started to form larger and larger school districts, especially in suburban areas. And when we saw that happen, and when you look at our lines, the reason our school district boundaries don't always make sense, it was whose farm it was. So you had a farmer who owned a non-congruent piece of land that didn't have easy boundaries. That is where those school district boundaries came to be. And it was just when the little schools started to consolidate with the bigger schools to create more mass, to provide more efficient education to students as they got into then junior high and high school. And now it is very difficult to change those boundaries. And because as school districts, we've invested so much money in property and all of the things that these young ladies talked about, I couldn't imagine if we said, you know, it would be really easy if Union County became part of Fairbanks. You know, so then you start looking at how do you redraw that? And you also have what are overlapping services between cities, counties, and townships. And that's why we pay Washington Township to run a fire department and the city of Dublin to run a police department and the Dublin city. So there's an awful lot of inefficiency in the way this has grown over time. But I wish there was an easy way to fix it. I don't know what it is. So, all right. Anyone else have a question? Yes, ma'am. Well, I think if you go back to the origins of win-win, the idea with win-win was that unincorporated territory or land, when it became incorporated by a city, in this case Columbus, they got to remain part of the Dublin City School District. So as the city of Columbus incorporated more land, and when they incorporated the land, they provide police, fire, water, sewer, trash pickup, all the services you get from the city. As the city of Columbus incorporated more land, the residents in that area got to stay in the suburban school district. And the reason it was called win-win is those unincorporated territories got the city services for cheaper from the city of Columbus, but they didn't get absorbed into the Columbus City Schools. They got to stay in the school district that they were in before there was the annexation. So win-win for all of the school districts around the Outer Belt, and it's why in the city of Columbus, 55% of the students who live in the city of Columbus go to suburban school districts. It's 32%, it's 50% for Hilliard, it's over 50% in Worthington, and it's because as Columbus grew, that's why we have so many larger suburban districts. And it's all around the Outer Belt. So we called it win-win for a long time because at the time, it was a win for the citizens and a win for Columbus. We actually paid Columbus how much, Mr. Kern?
About 1.5 million annually.
So they didn't take that into the Columbus City School District because they wanted the tax base.
Well, also, too, the benefit to the school district, in a sense, is the Columbus City Schools could have carved out all the, for example, Home Depot, all the commercial property that does not have any students that go along with it, and keep that tax base, and said, well, Dublin, we don't want the, you know, whether it's residential or it's houses or it's apartments or whatever it would be, they could, they're potentially draw around the lines to their benefit as a tax grab from a commercial base. So win-win prevented that from that standpoint of them just slicing things up the way they wanted for the commercial purposes.
So then, the city benefiting from those, the city of Dublin is benefiting from those businesses as a result?
The Dublin City School District.
No, I'm sorry, you said that they didn't.
So Dublin City Schools maintained, so we have, of course, property taxes are our main revenue source for the schools. And so as is for Columbus City Schools. Now, not as much as us for as a percentage of the total budget, but still property taxes is a very, even for Columbus City Schools, a very high revenue source for them. So Columbus City Schools, as part of, once those lands were incorporated, due to growth, and which is really came down to, if you want water, you're going to have to come into the city of Columbus, is what happened. And so when they developed those areas and incorporated into the city of Columbus, Columbus City Schools then, at that time under state law, it was congruent to your, if you were a city school district, it matched lines. So, but with this, it allowed us, and I think there was a change in the legislature. There's a whole big history on it, but there again, what I'm really trying to say is Columbus City Schools, we benefited as Dublin City Schools because Columbus City Schools could have came in and carved out anyone that didn't have any additional students in it, right? For example, residences or apartments, but could have kept the commercial, the office buildings, the retail or whatever else may have happened. Just, you know, if you're thinking Sawmill Corridor, you can think of what's all up and down there and what could have happened from that standpoint.
Right, so then the revenue from taxes for those commercial properties are going to Dublin City instead of Columbus?
You are correct. They stayed there. They stayed there, right? So.
The city benefited, but not necessarily the school.
Yes.
Okay, so it's more like a Dublin City thing too, instead of, I mean, I just feel a little slighted because I am a Columbus resident at Dublin schools, and when I hear that I'm the boogeyman now, I'm like, whoa, what did Dublin get out of this? But actually, Dublin City.
The city of Dublin gets no money from you.
But, no, I understand that, but you're saying that they could have been, Congress could have been, in effect, taken those properties or the tax base from those commercial properties.
For the Columbus City Schools. The city of Columbus still gets their tax base. So this has nothing to do with the city of Dublin.
Yeah, and it benefited you as residents too, because otherwise you would have, they potentially could have matched the whole lines and could have went to Columbus City Schools if they so choose to do that. But you're allowed to stay in Dublin City Schools and all the benefits and the outcomes, instructional outcomes that we have here.
I guess bottom line, I'm just asking, what did Dublin City Schools get out of the deal? Or was it a raw deal? And that's why I'm starting to get picked on.
No, the Dublin City Schools got to keep their boundaries how they were. In fact, in 2016 is, I believe, when we sunset Win-Win, and Win-Win is over. We did that so that there wasn't a threat to any of those suburban neighborhoods that they would get given back or taken by the Columbus City Schools. So when we sunset Win-Win, all of the school leaders at the time, and I was serving a different district at the time, we all agreed that ending Win-Win was important, so the threat of changing school districts was no longer part of the conversation. And I would never say that from a school district standpoint, anyone should feel like the boogeyman. From a school district standpoint, we embrace every kid who comes in this school and every student who comes in every day as if they're part of our Dublin City School family. When we have conversations about municipal growth, it's not about the kids, it's about the politics and the decisions. And when we make decisions about redistricting, and for those of you who watched the webinar last Monday, there are those who have suggested that we should only redistrict new homes. So that if you're building new homes in Union County, you should be the ones who have to move someplace else, so that the people who were here before don't have to move. And I have always said we don't punish students for adult decisions. And we believe in neighborhood elementary schools. We want neighborhood elementary schools to feed to middle schools. We know that redistricting our middle schools is a challenge. And at the same time, we're also now going to have to redistrict some high schools. But that's a community project, because we are one Dublin when it comes to our school district. Unfortunately, we're not when it comes to the municipalities who serve us. His paycheck?
Yeah, he works in Columbus, actually, but his taxes are Dublin City Schools on the tax.
That should not say Dublin City Schools. We have no payroll tax for anyone on a paycheck. And we have no income tax from a school district.
Okay, the last question is, why do I get to vote on a levy then for Dublin? Because we've always voted for levies.
Well, the school district's boundaries and the money that we get as a school district is from everyone who sends their kids to the Dublin City Schools. That is entirely different than the city of Dublin and Dublin City Council and decisions that are made within the municipality of Dublin. So property taxes, your property taxes, if you go to the state auditor site and you pull up your property tax bill, property taxes to Dublin City Schools, 100%. You are every bit as much of a member of the Dublin City Schools as Rick, who lives in the city of Dublin. I'm assuming you live in the city of Dublin.
I live down the street from you.
See, there we go. Understood. Yes, sir. I won't hold that against you.
Big Dublin. No. My paycheck, they take money from Dublin School. On every paycheck, it's got so much for
It
Dublin.
does say that.
It does. So I think you look into that a little further. Because I got stubs at the stub.
Are you sure it doesn't say Dublin City?
It's a city tax.
Yeah, so it's City of Dublin income tax.
There's a
which-
payroll tax that goes to the city of Dublin. It probably says City of Dublin or Dublin City. It's not us. Next board meeting, bring it in. We'll take a look. All right. Hi, guys. Thank you all very much. Love the conversations. Ladies, thank you for being here. We appreciate you. You are welcome to stay for the meeting. We also understand if you get up and leave, we will not hold it against you. Okay? Mrs. Rigby.
Okay. We are now moving on to the Board of Education committees.
I have a couple reports. Excuse me. On April 21st, the Senior Citizen Council met. We had Mr. Andrew Garner and the Kaufman Choir students perform to kick off the meeting. They performed Bob Dylan, Delta Blues, and a couple, well, actually an Irish song called The Parting Glass, which is, I learned, both a greeting and a goodbye. It was awesome. Dr. Marshallson gave an update on the mental health event, which Governor DeWine attended at Hopewell and shared information about House Bill 96. The seniors in the group were eager to help around that and had lots of questions also around that. Some of the examples of questions that I found helpful to hear was, is there any other way for legislatures to give property tax relief? How can I let my voice be heard if my senator is opposed already? That's a common question that I've heard during that meeting and since then. Is the State Department of Education involved? Mrs. Marple and Mrs. Sullivan gave a presentation on graduation requirements. And students, as you know, must earn 2 diploma seals to graduate. One must be a state seal. The others can be local. They can earn 2 seals or they can earn more than that. The local school districts determine the criteria for their local seals, and they mentioned that the student engagement seal is the highest earned seal in Dublin City Schools. And the class of 2025 was on track to earn over 5,400 seals, which I thought was impressive because that means they're earning a lot of them. One question that the attendees had was whether students with IEPs are included in this, and as you know, they are. Keyburn Grady gave an overview of the Dublin Alumni Association and some of the events that are upcoming for them. She mentioned that DCS will be presenting at the National School Public Relations Association to share all the work that they do with alumni. And some of the upcoming events include the 50-year reunion, the all-class reunion, the Alumni Hall of Fame ceremony, the Golden Grads Luncheon, and the Dublin City Schools Legacy Fund is another program. Also, PTO leadership met on Friday, and Mrs. Gillis, you can add to this too if you would like. Again, for the majority of the meeting, we discussed redistricting. We also discussed House Bill 96. Some of the questions that attendees had were around elementary schools, and for high school redistricting, would the district consider the way the elementary schools split when they're drawing lines? And the answer was no, not really, but neighborhood schools, the elementary schools are neighborhood schools, so they kind of are already grouped together, and that the goal is to keep middle schools at 2 splits, or, not more than 2. They also ask how will the district address negative perceptions that people may have regarding one building over another. They discussed different ways to welcome new families and just how to focus on the outcome of creating a positive experience for all students. Did you want to share anything?
Only thing to note was that meeting was recorded, and I believe Cassie is cutting tape, so it's accessible for everyone to view. I would encourage you to do so. It was a really authentic conversation. It was also really great, some of the stories that were shared in the room just about anxiety of changing. We actually had a family that was at a certain elementary school, did not want to move, had a tour of the new one. Great experience, very excited where they are. And I think it's also kind of inspired the way we need to do open houses for our high schools and get people familiar with the space they're going to be attending. So very positive conversation overall.
And I have a lot of policies to go over from the policy review committee, but I will do that when we get to the policies.
I have key communicators from April 15th, and Cassie shared that we are going through rebranding for all of our schools, and so all the schools are going to have a package eventually that will include colors and logos for each of the schools, and that's going to be on a gradual process. Also announced the license plate. And I believe it was $25 per plate actually goes to the food pantry, which is quite a good amount. She mentioned the NSK 12 audit, which we have spoken about at the last board meeting, and then kind of opened it up to find best messaging and how to have a call to action regarding House Bill 96 and how best to use our key communicators to encourage people to pay attention to what is happening with school funding and what they can do if they so choose to. Feel free to add anything else, Mrs. Gillis.
Cassie unveiled the Bishop Bears logo, which was great. Do we have that tonight? Okay, it's super cute. It turned out the colors are fantastic. Amazing conversation from our community and direction they would like to see from Dublin. Not they would like to see, but just great conversation about House Bill 96, and it's been great to kind of see that roll out and what we're doing. So that's all I have to add.
Okay, I just have one update, and that's from the Business Advisory Council. This was held at the Washington Township Fire Department on the 22nd of April. And just for an overview, Washington Township Fire, for many in the audience here this evening, they service your homes and your residences. So for City of Dublin residents, they are on the ballot in the fall for a renewal levy, and that means no new taxes. And I thought this was interesting. They haven't not increased that taxpayer ask since 2010. So, and they shared that had been, the reason they are successful there is that's been through strong fiscal management and clawbacks of unused monies through insurance mostly. But the fire department has a great partnership with DCS and with Tolls. They will teach over 800 DCS students CPR this year. Through the Tolls EMS program, they have students rotate through their cohort. They have DCS students who have done internships and will continue to offer those opportunities for our students. Several Kaufman students in particular have gone on to become firefighters. And then of note, 98% of their firefighters are EMS certified, and this is the highest level permitted in the field. So they perform at a very high level, and we are lucky to partner with them. At the meeting, also Jen Hinderer gave a career pathways presentation to the group, and there's so much that she shared, and I'll highlight some of them, but we have talked about inviting Jen to come to a board meeting because there really just is so much there. She highlighted partners with Ohio Health, with Danis Engineering and Construction, with Visit Dublin and Hospitality Academy internships. This is interesting. Cameron Mitchell is a partner next year, so that's exciting. Performance Auto, Dublin Teacher Academy. And 18 of our students have passed, and I think even more on the classified schedule for tonight that will be working in the summer school special education program. So that's very exciting for Dublin students. But the list goes on and on for the opportunities that were shared. And our students are so fortunate to have these. I know I sound like a broken record every time I come from the Business Advisory Council, but we really are very, very fortunate to have such excellent partners. And then Dr. Marshausen talked a little bit about the Press Pause campaign, efforts to, remove the cell phones in schools, their effects on mental health, digital wellness, and mistakes made and consequences that occur as a result of those mistakes. And we talked about how we will lead these efforts to help in this area through local experts. We're not going to rely on national experts because the feedback was parents, community members, they want to hear from people locally. And then we also talked again about the biennial budget and House Bill 96 and encouraged support, and I think got a resounding yes, that they would like to support in any way that they can. They just need direction, how and when, and we will provide that to them.
I'm going to piggyback just for a second, too. One of the great things about our Business Advisory Council is we do have some pretty heavy hitters in the Ohio business community who are members of our BAC, representatives from the Restaurant Association, Gordon Golf, who leads our Retail Federation here in the state, who are also on our behalf going to be lobbying for some of the issues as they live in our community and have kids in our community and understand our school funding. So it's not the reason we have a BAC, but having an impressive, high-powered group in our Business Advisory Committee gives us a little bit more clout when it comes to the lobbying for things that we would like to see happen in Dublin. And I said this to the group, and I've said this before, we don't put up this bat signal too often. We aren't a district that is complaining about schools, is always banging on legislators, is always asking. And that serves us well when we do have an ask that, yes, this is incredibly important to our Dublin community. And I think those business leaders recognize that too. They were very interested in the talking points, and I know that they will be working with their lobbyists and the relationships they have with folks in the General Assembly. So it was a very productive meeting. Thank you, Mrs. Rigby.
Now we're moving on to student representative update, and I'd like to welcome Asil. Is that correct?
Yes.
And thank you. I just want to point out, you're stepping up as a junior a little bit early because all of our seniors, they have senioritis. Can we just say that? I know they said they were busy, but thank you so much for being here. We appreciate it.
Yes, hopefully I'm using this right. Good evening to the board and everyone present. Thank you to Mrs. Rigby for introducing me. My name's Cecile. I'm the junior representative for Emerald Campus. No hate to the seniors as they're edging closer to retirement, right? Sometimes these things occur and it was all up to coincidence, but it's not apparent on my face, but I'm more than overjoyed to be up here and get some early practice. So let's just get into what we have. I'm sure everyone's excited to hear about our annual Dublin Dodgeball Tournament that will be on May 9th. This year's Dodgeball beneficiary will be Kate Wells Leslie Ungerer Fund. I'm so sorry to the organization. They're an absolutely wonderful organization. Their mission is to provide support to cancer patients in Ohio during their treatment. The organization delivers funds directly to cancer patients and families, and the organization remains committed to its mission. Tickets purchased in advance will be $7, but they will increase to $10 on the day of the event. And I know everyone hates augmentation in their prices, right? So buy early. And of course, each of the high schools celebrated their proms this Saturday. Sadly, I wasn't able to go, but I lived vicariously through everyone else and their photos. Jerome had a Twilight Garden themed party, and Sayota had a Rio de Janeiro, hopefully I pronounced that right, themed prom. Jerome is currently approaching its Shakespeare in Love performance on May 1st and May 2nd at 7 p.m. and May 3rd at 1 p.m. and 7 p.m. And their Environmental Science Club is hosting its tennis shoe drive. So if anyone has any of those, Jerome is more than willing to take them. They will be collecting tennis shoes in any condition, which is a startling condition, from April 21st through May 3rd. Shoes can be dropped off in the large collection boxes by the entrances to Jerome or at their community drive-up event on May 3rd. Sorry that I keep stuttering. I somehow ended up directly underneath event, and I'm very cold. Like I said earlier, we also have a theater performance at Dublin Scioto, my home school. Real exciting. And they will be presenting Shrek the Musical. One of our student representatives actually wasn't here today because he's doing his rehearsal at AJ. So someone go check him out. They will be performing on May 2nd at 7:30, May 3rd at 7:30 and 2 p.m. And closing nights will be May 4th at 2 p.m. And then Emerald Campus. They hosted their second annual TEDx EC event. Run by Emerald Campus students, 6 students performed stunning, hilarious, and tragic talks, all under the theme of breaking the ice. I was lucky enough to watch in the audience. They were absolutely amazing, and hopefully everyone can make it to the third one next year. And that is all. Thank you.
Thank you.
I have a question, Asil. Do you know, were the TEDx talks, were they recorded, or do you know?
They were recorded. To my knowledge, the events, the way that it works is that they will send in the events to like the overall TEDx organization, and they choose from there whether or not it will be uploaded to their website. But that's what I heard from my friends, so I'm unsure if they were chosen or not.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, well, you can share with the seniors that we did not miss them at all tonight, and you did a fabulous job.
Trust me, I can text them right now. Don't even worry. Wait, does that go against the phone policy? My bad.
Does that go against the policy? Did you?
Yeah, this is
Oh my
easily
gosh,
the
it's
most comedic.
It is.
Yes,
It is
easily.
entertainment.
We
I
are
feel like
looking
I could
forward to
really
next
pay
year
admission.
already.
I know. It's great. It is great. Okay, moving on to reports from the superintendent, Dr. Marshausen.
I don't want to follow her. Okay. We will continue to share our redistricting timeline just in case there are folks who are unaware of the process we're going through. We had our public information session and redistricting webinar last Monday. It's been watched many times since then, and we want to be able to make sure we have accurate information out to our public. Matt Cropper and Cropper GIS will do a public session in August to share what are the key indicators, what will be taken into consideration when Cropper begins to draw those maps. Matt is gathering data now. Our internal planning team will start meeting in the late spring, early summer, so that we'll be able to share the 6 to 8 factors that will go into the redistricting process. On September 29th, at both Jerome and Kaufman, we will be revealing the proposed maps. We're doing that at Jerome and Kaufman because we anticipate the students that will be affected by redistricting and having to move our current Jerome and Kaufman students. We will have the final presentation to the board at Scioto High School on November 10th. Between September 29th and October 12th, we will be accepting public comments. And as our community witnessed and experienced during the elementary and middle school redistricting process, Cropper read every comment, changes were made when appropriate, and we will continue to remind folks that there will be competing interests, so everybody doesn't get their suggestion, because many of the times those suggestions compete with each other. And then August 20th, 2026, we will welcome a larger freshman class to Scioto High School, and any sophomores, juniors, and seniors that choose to make that change based on the new attendance boundaries. If anyone hasn't had an opportunity to drive Hard Road recently, if you get a chance to go over that way, cut across Riverside towards Emerald Parkway, There are new curb cuts. There are 40-foot piles of dirt. There are bulldozers and fences. And although we will do the official groundbreaking in May, we are well underway. And in talking to Mr. Cochran, there are times that the building even rumbles as the bulldozer, and I see Mrs. Sampson back there nodding her head. We're working, and we're going to be ready. So it's exciting for our entire community. As you've heard, and I won't read this entire slide, this information is up on our website. It's been in an e-blast, sharing information with our community about House Bill 96. And as we've talked about before, the Senate is just returning this week from their spring recess. There are 3 weeks of hearings in the Senate Education Committee, then 2 weeks in Senate Finance. And then in late June, we would anticipate the Senate passing a budget. And then really the rubber meets the road on June 12th when the conference committee comes together. And you get the House version and the Senate version and reps from the executive in there trying to pull together a final budget. So we will continue to be advocates for the Dublin City Schools and for what's important to our funding formula all the way through this process. A couple save the dates. Community Service Day is this Saturday. Partnership with the Chamber of Commerce and the City of Dublin. We will have several of our groups that are active on Community Service Day. Next Friday, the 9th, the Dodgeball Tournament, Military Commitment Ceremony on Thursday, May 15th. And then the big day on Sunday, May 25th, Jerome, Scioto, and Kaufman graduations and a full day at the Schottenstein Center. One of all of our favorite days where I think we're approaching 1,300 hands we'll get to shake in total between those three schools. So an exciting day, including several board members' children. So we're ready for that, as I'm sure you are too. Bunch of last days, preschool's last days the 15th, seniors the 21st, kindergarten the 22nd, and 19 school days left until everyone else is wrapped up on May 23rd. Drones as the first responders. We've talked about this before. There is an agreement on the board agenda tonight to approve. I'm very hopeful you approve it, considering the base stations are already on the buildings. For us to have drone station at Scioto and Grizel Middle School, that is in addition to drones being at one of the Washington Township Fire Departments in the city building. 4 drones that can, I believe, Chief said, can get anywhere. Oh, it says it on here. In 90 seconds, anywhere within the city limits. To give eyes in the air to first responders as they get to a fire, a police. Let's say we have a child, which never happens, but if we had a kid escape a playground and go running, drones can go up and help us immediately try to track and follow those situations. So very proud of this partnership with the City of Dublin, and we're the first that will be, my guess is the first of many down the road, drones as first responders. So we're excited about being partners there. Recommendations tonight are that approval for the drones as first responders agreement, and then we have a first reading on many policies. So at this point, I know Mrs. De Silva is excited to give us an update on those policies for which we have a first reading tonight.
Thank you. So the first policy is the technical corrections policy, which would allow the superintendent to make technical corrections with a brief summary of the corrections to the board for review. And if a board member were to determine after that brief summary that those corrections were substantive, then the board would use the normal policy adoption procedure. Policy 0.
Can I just explain what the kind of situations? Yeah. So if an employee were to leave, for example, if someone who was in our HR department who's listed as the Title IX coordinator, if there were to be a job change, a technical correction would be just substituting the name of the current person with the name of someone else who's there. So not giving policy discretion to the superintendent, merely to approve those types of changes when it's a change in personnel or something like that.
Right. Policy 0171, review of policy is rescinded because it's redundant, and there are other more specific policies on the books already. Policy 1422.01 is a new drug-free workplace policy that states that the board shall not permit drug manufacturing, possession, use, distribution, or dispensing while on district property or while involved in any district-related activity or event. And you'll also, if you skip down, you'll see policy 3122.01 and 4122.01, and those simply add the line while in any district-related activity or event. Policy 1613, student supervision and welfare, adds specific prohibitions on grooming as required by state law. The changes to H adds language that matches existing policy, and the same changes can be found in policy 4213 and policy 3213, except that 3213 has additional language under F, which is required by law. And I know this is a lot, but if you have questions, you guys can ask. Policy 2271 reflects House Bill 8 changes to College Credit Plus, which Mrs. Marple reviewed, and those were added in. Policy 2340 reflects changes required by Ohio law for overnight accommodations. Policy 2431 adds cardiac arrest training. Policy 5113, the inter-district open enrollment, adds language that is required by law. Policy 5120, that one's pretty straightforward. The fourth paragraph was deleted. I had a question about this, and you might, once you see it, that fourth paragraph was deleted because it doesn't include all protected classes, and the district already has a non-discrimination policy. Policy 5223 is the release time for religious instruction policy. It adds language in the second paragraph that mirrors statute. The changes to the third paragraph are law-specific, and the fourth paragraph is a required statement. The sixth paragraph would reflect the district's requirement that any private entity completes a background check on all instructors and volunteers. The seventh paragraph requires any private entity to agree not to provide students with candy, trinkets, etc., for the distribution to others at school, and that any items provided would be securely packed away. And this is to limit disruption at school. Policy 5330 allows parents to give permission for non-prescription medications and reflects a legal requirement for seizure medication. Policy 5350 is reflective of legal changes. Policy 5460, graduation requirements, adds diploma seals and complies with legal requirements and reflects some double and specific changes. Policy 5610 reflects new law that allows the superintendent to expel a student for up to 180 days for actions that pose imminent and severe endangerment to the health and safety of others. It also outlines the requirements students must meet to come back to school, including evaluations by a mental health professional. Did you have anything to add to that, Dr. Marshausen?
No, it's clearly not something that we want to do, but there are cases that this flexibility allows us to protect our student body as a whole.
Policy 5751 reflects new federal law. Policy 5780.01 is the Parents' Bill of Rights and is new and required by Ohio law. Policy 6151 allows the district to pursue fees for return checks. Policy 8142 adds language on enrollment in the state RATBAC system. Policy 8452 adds language requiring training on AEDs. Policy 8500 adds language stating that the district will comply with state and federal regulations, dietary modification procedures, meal charges, bad debt account balances, and adds a non-discrimination statement. Mrs. Rigby, do you have anything? No. Okay. All right. That is all.
Okay, and again, as these are first reads tonight for policies, there is no action on the part of the board, so that will move us on to a vote for. It is recommended by the superintendent that the Board of Education approve the attached drone as first responder agreement. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Moved by Mr. Valentine. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mrs. Messick. Questions or comments? Call the roll, please.
Mr. Valentine,
Yes.
Mrs. Messig,
Yes.
Mrs. De Silva,
Yes.
Mrs. Gillis,
Yes.
and Mrs. Rigby.
Yes. Motion passes 5-0. Reports and action items from the Treasurer's Office. Mr. Kern.
This evening we have a light agenda. We have our approval of a purpose clause here from our PBIS student team over at Kaufman High School for this evening. Just a reminder on these purpose clauses. These pass through approvals. Like for example, Mr. Allring approves it. Reason it comes through our office is we assign account codes to it because money will be collected and spent on this. So also just from a general perspective, we continue to follow, as Dr. Marshausen says, activities at the State House when it comes to the budget, and we'll testify or whatever we need to do or have the conversations that need to happen on behalf of Dublin City Schools and the benefit of us. Other than that, the big thing, as I mentioned this last time, we'll be having our 5-year forecast update on the next board meeting for your approval. So it shouldn't be too big as far as changes, some small slight changes as we've gone throughout the year, but nothing too drastic, I would think, from October or when we approved the original one. So that's it.
Okay, thank you. It is recommended by the treasurer that the board approve item 6B, which is the student activity purpose clause. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Moved by Mrs. De Silva. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mrs. Messick. Call the roll, please.
Mrs. De Silva,
Yes.
Mrs. Messick,
Yes.
Mrs. Gillis,
Yes.
Mr. Valentine,
Yes.
and Mrs. Rigby.
Yes. Motion passes 5-0. Reports from the Department of Academics and Student Learning. Mrs. Marple.
Good evening. Thank you. Tonight, I am honored to be joined by quite a large team back here of teachers, school counselors, and administrators from the Department of Academics and Student Learning. Tonight, we will be presenting to the board graded course of study for K-12 science education, K-12 health education, K-12 school counseling framework, middle school creative mindsets, and our high school advanced integrated mathematics that rounds out our math graded course of study that we started last year. Tonight will serve as a first reading with a second reading and approval scheduled at the next board meeting. And at your seat, you'll find a binder, and we have hard copies of everything in the order with which we are presenting this evening. After all curriculum areas have been presented, we will pause at that time for questions about everything you've heard tonight. So first, I would like to introduce K-12 Curriculum Coordinator Christina Hutchison to the podium. She will overview our curriculum review cycle and then start us off with K-12 science education.
Good evening. Hello to Dr. Marshausen and the board. Thanks for having us here today. The graded course of studies that were mentioned by Lori Marple are part of phase 1 of our curriculum review process. Both science and math will enter on into phase 2, where we will perform a gap analysis, conduct a resource audit, and then look at potential resources for the future. After that, we'll enter into phase 3, 4, and 5 as we analyze, reflect, and refine. And it's this continuous cycle of our curriculum review process that helps us to stay current and respond to the needs of our students and our district. Thank you. As we examined our K-12 science programming, we began with developing our vision. And you'll notice here and in the documents in front of you that our vision speaks to creating curious, critical thinkers equipped with scientific knowledge and skills. And as we were having these conversations, we kept coming back to the experiences that we want to provide for our students that can be clearly seen throughout the vision and in our graded courses of studies. So here I just want to give a quick look at the what, why, and how for our K-12 science education. It's the what that you are seeing in front of you as the graded course of study. It's the standards that we will address in each one of our courses. And for science and grades K through 12, these standards are aligned to Ohio's Learning Standards for Science. We spent a lot of time looking at the vertical alignment of themes through K-8, and you can see those focus areas on the slide. At grades 9 through 12, we get to increase our specialization in those areas that are listed, and those are what creates the courses that our students have access to in Dublin City Schools. When we look at the why, the nature of science, it's a way of knowing, it's a human endeavor. Science begins with making observations, which leads to questions, and it's followed by experimentation and analysis. That's everywhere. Science is everywhere. And the cognitive demands for science is how we want students to engage in their science curriculum. And while you may not see that listed out in our graded course of studies, that's what our teachers have really been digging into as we've deconstructed our standards and thought about what that student experience looks like. The cognitive demands for science are based on research about how students best learn science. As part of our regular curriculum review process, we also get the opportunity to look at our academies offered here at Emerald Campus. Along with our science review today, you'll see the Sports Science Academy. The Sports Science Academy talks a lot about those hands-on experiences, opportunities for our students to serve as scientists in the area of sports and health-related fields. You'll see topics like anatomy and physiology as it pertains specifically to sports and fitness, evaluating performance through data collection, and how performance in physical activities can be maximized. The Academy consists of 3 different courses, one being our IB Sports, Exercise, and Health Science course at the standard level, as well as an Advanced Research in Science credit and a Statistical Analysis in Science credit. I'm going to pass it back to Lori for K-12 Health.
Thanks, Christina. I'd like to recognize a few of our teacher leaders and administrators that helped with the K-12 health education review. At elementary, I'd like to thank counselors Rhonda Hanks and Jennifer Gilbert. Give a wave. Under the leadership of Tyler Wolf, of course, who's been a partner in this work with me. At middle school, Sarah Haas. And at high school, lead teacher Gabe Hoover. And Natalie Henderson is here tonight. She's been working alongside me. This is the first time in a long time we've looked deeply at our health education standards, and Natalie is starting to work with some of our electives and related arts areas as well. So these people are the experts in the field, and they make this work easier by bringing their dedication and partnership, and of course their teaching mind to the work. Our K-12 curriculum review in health began in the fall with a gathering of teachers and administrators to consider our vision for health education in Dublin City Schools. And you can see here our vision statement starts with the words, "A Dublin City Schools health education empowers students with the knowledge, skills, and tools to make informed decisions, cultivate healthy habits, and develop lifelong well-being." And I feel like the team really did think about those beginning words throughout our work. You'll notice in this vision that there was a desire to emphasize skill building and knowledge, but also really think about the transfer of that knowledge into application through engaging lessons that will have opportunities for students to make sense of their decision-making power in living a healthy life. After visioning, we moved into our level meetings, and during that time, teachers came together to consider the student outcomes for each level. Ohio law does not permit the state to set health standards through ODU, and so as a district, without having that guidance, we looked at 3 areas to build our health education standards. First, we talked about a student-driven approach. This was really thinking about data, our trends that we're seeing, and parent input. Second, we looked to national research and trends. This year we used the SHAPE standards as a starting point for this work. And then we keep an eye on legislation. Because ODU isn't permitted to publish state learning standards and recommendations, health requirements often appear through legislation in Ohio Revised Code. Examples of this include CPR education, opioid education, child sexual abuse prevention education, suicide awareness and prevention, and other topics as well. So in the documents in your folder for your review over the next few weeks, we've tried to annotate everything that is included in Ohio Revised Code so that you are aware of what is part of law in the state of Ohio. You can see here, and I'll flip through 3 slides that show the topics for elementary, middle, and high school. But with our youngest learners, our health outcomes focus heavily on coping skills, feelings, life readiness, healthy habits, and social skills, including conflict resolution. Little people dealing with big problems. As students move to middle school, you can see that the topics change a little bit. Our middle schoolers take 2 trimesters. One is a 7th grader, one is an 8th grader. They learn about how health interacts with their body systems. There's an emphasis on emotional and mental health, drug and alcohol abuse prevention, healthy relationships and communication, and our 8th graders also learn about human growth and development. And then by high school, students in the state of Ohio take a semester high school health course. We offer it in Dublin as part of our summer online experience and also in person throughout the school year. And high school students explore many of the topics earlier mentioned, but in greater details. They also receive CPR certification through our partnership with the Washington Township Fire Department. And students at high school dig deeper into goal setting, healthy relationships, sexual health, social isolation, education, as well as other topics listed. One of the things that you might notice in the graded course of study is a greater emphasis on understanding the role that technology plays in students' healthy lifestyle as well. This was a topic that has trended among our parents and our staff and our community. And so we did emphasize that at all levels. And it's not just emphasized in the health space, but we felt like there was a connection there to be sure to emphasize. So with that said, I will pass it on to Tyler Wolf and Jessica Sullivan, who are working closely with our school counselors.
Good evening, everyone. And thanks for allowing us some time tonight to talk about the counselor framework. First of all, I'd like to thank our whole team, including our leads, Allison Sampson at the high school, Don Wolf at our middle school, Jen Gilbert and Rhonda Hanks at our elementary schools for being our elementary counselor leads. Also like to thank Jessica Kretz, who's our coordinator of assessment, and also, of course, Lori Marple, our executive director of teaching and learning, for her leadership throughout this process. The K-12 Dublin City Schools counseling framework is designed to align with the American School Counselor Association model. The ASCA model serves as the national benchmark and includes 2 sets of standards, the mindset standards and the behavior standards. And within each standard are domains that reflect target learning objectives for students. And this is a national model that we've based our school counseling framework by. So in this brief review, Jessica and I will give you a high-level overview of the framework revision and the process that was undertaken. And I just want to note that our counselor framework had not been revised for a number of years, so it was certainly due for a revision, and we think we've come up with a good product in the end. So I'll turn it over to Jessica.
All right. As Tyler mentioned, we follow the ASCA national model for our standards, which includes the mindset standards and the behavior standards. After that, the ASCA model breaks it down to 3 broad domains, which provides school districts with more direction to make sure that all students are getting are prepared for their next step after high school. And so those 3 domains are the academic development, career development, and social emotional development. And those domains live K-12 in all 3 levels. I'm going to spend not long. I know the time is limited here. But one of the things that we spent a lot of time over the last year digging into is what are our beliefs as a counseling department. This gave us the opportunity to come back together K-12. And when we're looking at our school counselors who are working with our youngest students in kindergarten and our high school students who are preparing students for the next step after high school, it is a broad range of responsibilities, skills to address with students, and just a lot of different moving parts in the curriculum. And so one thing that we kept coming back together is one, that we are better together, whether that is as a K-12 counseling team or our collaboration with our community, our parent outreach program, our collaboration with classroom teachers. Lori just talked about the health curriculum. So of course, counselors support the health teachers and other teachers throughout the year as well. The other piece that I want to highlight in our K-12 beliefs is that it's comprehensive in scope, meaning that the ASCA domains really provide a comprehensive K-12 framework for us to work under. And so we do expect that all students going through Dublin City Schools have those experiences at each level. It's not just that you get to the career development when you're at the high school level. It's really embedded throughout your experience. The other piece was the preventative in design and proactive in delivery. Now, it's impossible to have this 100% accurate because we know that we all experience unpredictable challenges throughout our lives. So part of our responsibility is teaching students how to cope when they are presented with those challenges. Can they handle changes? As we heard today, we know many of our students are experiencing those changes now with redistricting. Do they have the skills to adapt to a new environment and be successful? So that proactive is really important to us, and that's something that we continuously revisit as a team. The next 2 boxes, I'm going to talk really briefly about the secondary box. And this is just some of our high-level priorities as a secondary team. One thing that we have done really well as a district over the last couple of years is embed intentional opportunities for our students to start digging into their pathway work, to their academic development, giving them a space to explore what are they passionate about, what are their interests. We've started the Prepared for Success class in 7th grade, and we have required all 8th graders to have a personalized plan through our Journey 2030 plan, which has provided a space for us to be intentional with our students. The other thing I just want to reiterate that Lori mentioned was that our counseling framework also integrates the state legislation as well. And whether that's us as a team implementing those requirements or us supporting the health teachers, supporting the admin, we are all doing this together. And I will let Tyler go through elementary.
Thanks, Jessica. And I think when I first came up, I may have said Jessica Sullivan, and I meant to say Jessica Kretz. So
You actually said Jessica Kretz.
Did I say Kretz?
Say Jessica Sullivan.
Did I meant to say Sullivan? Okay, I got them mixed up. So we've known each other a long time, and it's just one of those things. It's just Jessica to me. So, all right, thanks for being patient with me. So I'll take the elementary box up here, and our elementary counselors work closely with our regular education teachers to deliver the health curriculum to our elementary students. So there's a lot of collaboration at that level, and also there's a lot of collaboration among the elementary school counselor team in determining which resources to use for some of the state mandated requirements, such as the sexual abuse prevention and the suicide awareness and prevention and social isolation, those types of things. So a lot of collaboration at the building level and also among our team. So the K-12 counselors, all the counselors began this work over a year ago by reviewing the previous counselor framework and discussing as a team the alignment of many variables, including the most current ASCA domains, Journey 2030, relentless leadership, and state mandates related to sexual abuse prevention, inclusionary practices, just to name a couple. The team discussed current practices, reviewed shared resources, and discussed strengths and areas for improvement. The framework that elementary school counselors in particular had been using had not been revised for many years, and it was clearly time for an update. After several sessions of discussion with the whole team, a subcommittee was developed to do the hard work. And this team met many times over the course of the year to closely examine language, provide updates, simplify the action steps, and make the document more user-friendly for new counselors as we're growing more and more each year. Elementary school counselors are responsible for directly teaching in every classroom throughout the course of the year. Counselor lessons align with the ASCA framework and the National Health Standards. Counselors, teachers, and other staff share in the delivery of the health standards at the elementary level. Health, wellness, and the development of the whole child is the responsibility of every person in our schools and community. The revision of the K-12 school counselor framework serves to further improve the quality of our interactions and the success of every student. We've worked hard to update the framework and will continue to look for ways to continually improve as we move ahead. So once again, thank you very much. Are there any questions?
We'll do questions at the end, Tyler.
Oh, okay, gotcha. All right, at this time, I'll introduce our coordinator of gifted services, Rachel Dobney.
Good evening. Creative Mindsets has spent the 24-25 school year in a pilot, and this year has seen gifted intervention specialists working to create an inviting space for students to explore their interests and connect with their peers. The graded course of study aligns National Association for Gifted Children and Ohio Association for Gifted Children learning outcomes for gifted, talented, and inquisitive students, demonstrating a thoughtful and intentional approach to meeting the needs of all learners. As most of you or all of you have read or seen in the NSK-12 audit, they recommended that we continue to run Creative Mindsets as an enrichment that is accessible to all students. Because we know that enrichment activities are vital for fostering a culture of exploration and growth. To see the demand more than double in just 1 year, so this year we have 682 students enrolled. Next year we have 1,371 students enrolled in the course. It's exciting to see such a strong culture of exploration and personal growth thriving in our middle schools. What you see here on the second slide are the 6 targets for student learning. Creative Mindsets uses the QFT, or question formulation technique, from the Right Question Institute. It is used widely in both professional and academic settings for generating and improving students' own questions for inquiry and research. The top picture that you see there is a list of questions generated by one of our students using the QFT prior to beginning an inquiry cycle. You'll see in the other picture on this slide, a student is presenting after having landed on a question focused around what makes a calculator work and wondering if he might be able to fix the ones that are broken in his math teacher's classroom. He researched how to fix calculators. He found the necessary parts, took the calculators apart, and fixed the broken calculators for his teacher. And here he is presenting on his learning cycle. As you can see, this course's foundation is a student-driven experience. With the teacher as a guide, students can expect to grow in their understanding of themselves through tackling complex real-world problems, reflect on their own decisions and processes, take risks, communicate and collaborate effectively, and have fun while doing it. Thanks. Christina, back to you.
All right, this is our last one. Advanced Integrated Mathematics is not a new course. In fact, it's one we've had for quite a few years now. And in the past, it has served students that have successfully completed Algebra 2. I want to remind you, last year we had our K-12 math curriculum review. And as part of that, we adopted Data Science Foundations as an Algebra 2 equivalent course. That came about through Ohio's Strengthening High School Mathematics Pathways initiative. So this year, Data Science Foundations is running for the first year. When we looked at this opportunity of advanced integrated mathematics, like I said, it's currently serving students that have an Algebra 2 background. We felt that it would be great to make this course available to students that have the true Algebra 2 experience, as well as its new Algebra 2 equivalent course of Data Science Foundations. So the graded course of study that's presented today is very similar to the one in past, but has some small adjustments to accommodate for the fact that we'll have two different groups of students taking the same coursework. In either way, in either pathway from Algebra 2 or from Data Science Foundation, students will have the opportunity to deepen their understanding of a wide variety of math topics to prepare them for next steps. As Lori mentioned, and all of our teams have mentioned, all of this graded course of study work that you see before you could not have been done without our amazing teams of teachers. We have many of them here today, but without, today we do not currently have our science leads or our math leads. They were not able to join us tonight, but I do want to give a shout out to Christina Baker, science lead at elementary, Sean Holland at middle school, and Donna Parker at high school, and Amy Kowach is our high school math lead over advanced integrated mathematics. Back to you, Lori.
Thank you. Obviously, to do all of this curriculum work in a given year, it takes a tremendous amount of collaboration and leadership. So I just want to thank everybody who's here tonight. This is what really keeps teaching and learning moving in Dublin City Schools, and I'm really proud of the work that they've done this year. And I want to open it up to any questions you may have for them. Obviously, this was a lot, and you have some reading that you may want to do, and so I also welcome questions over email in the coming days.
I just want to say a couple of things. So first, this is a tremendous amount of work. Thank you for doing it. Really appreciate that. And also, I appreciate the Ohio Revised Code. The annotations, I thought that was helpful to have those out next to the standards, and that was...
It's helpful for me as well.
Yeah, yeah, because you might be wondering, why is this here? Well, you have it right there. Also, I appreciate it, and you mentioned this as well, but the emphasis on the impact of technology on mental health and well-being, I think that's really important, and I appreciated seeing that in there. I did have a question, and I was going to email it, but since we have you all here, I had a question about at the elementary level for health. Some of the questions, or the area around setting goals around health, and what does that look like for elementary school kids who they don't choose their own meals necessarily, or, have a lot of say in certain things. What does that look like for an elementary school student?
Rhonda and Jen, I can't see you because of this poll. Do either of you want to give an example or two of what that could look like at maybe kindergarten versus 5th grade? You get to go to the podium.
I think that at the elementary level, we just want kids to know what is healthy and what isn't healthy. And when they're able to choose their own meals, then they're able to choose them. I know that I talk a lot about, try to be a healthy eater when, if you're stressed or you don't want to eat a cake. You don't want to eat 12 cupcakes. I think things like that is... when we're talking about healthy meals or balanced meals, also we've done, I think, the My Plate, but you're right, they don't all have access to that.
Were you talking about setting goals in general, or just specifically about
food,
healthy eating?
So there's an area, but there's an area that focuses on specifically setting goals, like it's goal setting for elementary kids. And I was just wondering, how, what does that look like for an elementary school kid to set a goal?
Sure.
Oh.
Well, we work pretty closely with our regular education teachers, the classroom teachers, and a lot of that goal setting happens in the classroom. As far as, for example, in first grade, there'd be a writing goal. They would set a goal on, what they want to accomplish as a writer in first grade. Obviously, it's going to be broken down pretty easily into small chunks. But, as the kids get older, closer to 4th and 5th grade, it might be setting goals that are a little bit more in depth. So really school counselors really support the classroom teacher in setting a lot of their educational goals.
In listening to our teachers work in grade level teams, one of the things I noticed is they talk a lot about this component being integrated into some of the academic work that they're doing, or maybe even some of the behavioral work within the classroom. So for each child, it's very differentiated around what they might be able to set a goal around. And that definitely, it was actually fascinating to watch our kindergarten team versus our 5th grade team work together, because there's a lot of change that happens in children between kindergarten and 5th grade. And so that team actually worked in separate groups, but then they put everything together vertically to make sure that what they were doing with kindergarten fed into 1st grade, fed into 2nd grade, and on up. So they did a lot of vertical work and horizontal work across these goals in making sure that they were thinking. But that goals is more of an integrated, it's not always a separate lesson, but by the time students get to middle and high, the middle school and high school health teachers actually talk about more formalized goal setting and framework for how to set goals.
And I think at the elementary level too, there's a lot of problem solving. We're teaching them how to problem solve, and so when they get into those middle school, they're able to then set the goals, but they have to be able to learn how to problem solve first. And even a kindergartner and a 1st grader can be a part of setting those goals. Especially about behavior and things like that. But that's mainly what we do at the elementary level.
Thank you, ladies.
I had a math question. So the advanced integrated math course, it just help me understand, because maybe I missed it. Do they take algebra and then this is something they take to expand their mastery of it?
Correct.
Or it's an either or an in addition?
So this is traditionally, this could serve as a 4th math credit for a student that maybe had the traditional trajectory of Algebra 1, geometry. Prior to Data Science Foundations, it would be Algebra 1, Geometry, Algebra 2, and then Advanced Integrated Mathematics was an option for students, or Pre-Calculus was an option for students. They serve different purposes, where Pre-Calculus is very focused on those skills that will extend thinking into that calculus framework, where Advanced Integrated Mathematics says, I'm going to take all of this beautiful math that I've done so far, and I'm going to build upon it at a deeper level that might feed into a wider variety of future math coursework. So now with Data Science Foundations, that's why you're seeing this rewrite in front of you, because now you could see students coming from Algebra 1, Geometry, Algebra 2, or Data Science Foundations coming into Advanced Integrated Mathematics.
Thank you. Good. And my next question was just for the counselor piece of it. I've had several friends and just parents talk about, in a high-performing district like Dublin, the fear of failure is real, and it's real from a very young age, and it just continues. And I think it's exacerbated by social media, where everything looks like it's perfect. So I was just wondering what we're doing, how we're doing to help kids, because you can't ultimately succeed if you don't fail, and it's part of growth and learning, and I'm just wondering how we help them.
Absolutely. I'm going to say something, and then I'm going to ask the secondary counselors to speak, because they're the ones working with the students every day. Something I did want to mention, so I'm glad that you mentioned this. Our previous counselor framework was heavily focused on academic achievement, and that was defined as success for a student. It was very heavy on the ACT and the SAT, and are you enrolling in college, and then that's your pathway. Well, that was a mindset a decade ago, where we weren't deep into all these different pathways for students in our 4 E's, meaning that are we supporting students in learning about the different pathways post-high school? And it's not just education. And education doesn't mean a 4-year college. It means a 2-year, a technical apprenticeship, whatever it looks like for you, but it also could look at like enlistment. It could be employment, it could be entrepreneurship, it could be a mix of all of that. So one thing that we have focused on in the framework is starting young, starting and are prepared for success classrooms with planning. So when you were talking about goals, are we looking at what are our aptitudes? What is a good fit for me? And so starting those conversations earlier, I think, are helping students identify what their passions are, what their interests are, what their aptitude is, and what a good pathway would be throughout high school and post-high school. So I think because we're having these intentional conversations, I'm hopeful that we start to see some of that stress relief in our students and some of that anxiety decrease, because there's so many wonderful pathways that doesn't have to be a perfect ACT score and acceptance into Harvard or whatever they're putting the pressure on. There's multiple ways for student success, which is highlighted in the framework. But I will ask one of you guys to come over to talk about what you're doing quickly in the buildings, because you could probably talk about this all day.
So I'm representing middle school, and I just think she said it really well, that just really helping students understand they have a lot of opportunities, and this is their chance for choice and looking at opportunities. And I think letting them know if they're not their first choice or they decide it's not something they're as good at, they have other opportunities to explore from there. And so in the middle school level, like bringing in the choice that we have brought in, I think is a great way to show them some exploration earlier on, and then again, really focusing on looking at the different pathways and options that they have.
So I'll speak to high school, and obviously everything that they both said applies in terms of the options and the different pathways and exploring things so that students are able to find things, especially when we talk about post-high school planning, because that can be, we talk a lot at the high school level to kids about how their trajectory throughout Dublin City Schools K through 12, they always know where they're going next until they get to post-high school, and that can create a lot of feelings, and just being a teenager in general. But I want to speak a little bit to just, there's intentional things that we do in the classroom with our high schoolers as school counselors throughout their 4 years, so that they really get to know us as a constant person that follows them throughout their journey. So there's a lot of individual work that we do talking about coping skills. There's small group work that we do in partnership with our mental health specialists that we're so fortunate to have. Each one of the high schools has a calming space where students, we try to teach them that it's okay to go, take a 15, 20-minute, time to get yourself collected. We all need to do that. So just really trying to support the students with their whole self, and not so that they're so caught up in the academic piece that they're not able to also have skills for taking care of themselves. The health curriculum has been fantastic as well. So it's a definite need and something that we really want to support our students with. So.
Thank you. Thank you all for being here tonight. Appreciate it, and all the work that you did putting this all together. So thank you. Okay, we are moving on to reports from the Department of Operations. Mr. Stark.
I have 3 items for your approval tonight. The first one is our Dublin Summer Camps. This is where we collaborate with the City of Dublin, but we need to make 3 agreements for them, and one is the facility use agreement. That's renting of our facilities and our custodian fees, our transportation fees for bringing the kids back and forth, and lastly, the food service is mostly a pass-through of our food service costs to them. And city camps this year will be at Scottish Corners, Wyandotte, and Griselle. The second item is we did an RFQ, request for qualifications, to find an engineer to do an arc flash study. And this is a very, very robust study that will go over 26 buildings. It's really a OSHA-required safety requirement that you do every few years to make sure our electrical infrastructure is safe, not only for the building, but for those who maintain it. This is a large undertaking because it's a new way of doing it. We're doing it all at once instead of piecemeal. So this will take the next 12 to 18 months to really complete. And not only will our systems be safer, but we'll also get a pretty good priority list of repairs coming out of that, and the repairs could be minor to something more material that would require a public bid. And lastly, very exciting, this is about a $35 million GMP. It's $31 million plus $4 million contingency. And sitting in our audience is Clay Keith, who's the project executive from Robertson. And pending board review, he will get on his phone and and complete the building by probably Saturday afternoon. I mean, this is really going to happen very fast after this vote. Maybe not this Saturday, but a Saturday in late July of next year. So this is a large GMP. We anticipate this will be the last GMP because this is everything from steel to drywall to everything. But we reserve that, and that's why this $4 million contingency we're hoping we're not using. It just, there's a lot with tariffs and supply chains and thinking you're going to get something from one area and then that it goes away right now. But we feel fairly confident this is what we need, and this will get us to the finish line. Any questions?
Okay, it is recommended by the superintendent that the board approve items 9A through 9C. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Moved by Mr. Valentine. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mrs. Gillis.
Yes.
Call the roll, please.
Mr. Valentine?
Yes.
Mrs. Gillis?
Yes.
Mrs. De Silva?
Yes.
Mrs. Messick?
Yes.
And Mrs. Rigby?
Yes. Motion passes 5-0. Reports from Human Resources. Mr. Boney.
Good evening, members of the board. I'll start tonight with our certified agenda and cover a few of those items on there. We have one new administrative hire. You'll see Kevin Masterson is being recommended as the assistant principal at Sells Middle School. Kevin worked with us. He actually works in Southwestern City Schools right now. Prior to that, he was an administrative intern with Dublin City Schools a few years back. You'll see 2 certified resignations and 2 retirements. Linda Roth will retire from Jerome High School with 21 years in Dublin, and then Dave Stroh will retire with the intent to be rehired into his position. He has 25 years in Dublin City Schools. There are 15 new hires on tonight's agenda, so working through, so we're ready for next school year. We're hiring 2 more substitute nurses to help when we have a need, and these individuals will work on an as-needed basis. Our technology department has 2 interns that we are recommending for work during the summer, followed by a list of staff that are being recommended for summer school work. There are 2 leave of absences on tonight that require your approval, and then the supplementals are for spring and fall athletic events. Moving on to our classified agenda, there's 4 retirements and 8 resignations. 2 of those retirements are date corrections. And then Rebecca Casey will retire from Dublin Scioto High School with 12 years in the district. And then Catherine Washbush, currently at Griswold Middle School, will leave our district with 11 years of service here. There are 3 new hires, and then most of the rest of this part of the agenda is for special education summer school work. Moving on to stipends, there are 3 stipends. The first 2 are to pay for programs at Kaufman High School, ROCS Advisory, and peer collaboration that were omitted from an earlier agenda, but to pay for work that's being done this current school year that we're in. The last stipend is for EL Summer Institute, which we do annually, and it serves as a way to help our teachers with professional learning on how to best help our English learner students. The final item is an attachment, and it's a motion to ratify the public notice made on April 24th, 2025, in accordance with the Ohio Revised Code for the public rehire notice of Dr. John Marchhausen, Mr. Mike Allring, and Mr. David Stroh. And that concludes the HR portion of tonight's agenda.
Brian, I had a quick question. Just anecdotally, I want to go back here on certified real quick. How many, we're obviously tonight with Kevin Masterson. It's a great example of somebody coming back. As we have these openings, how many would you people would you say are not necessarily in the district who have served in that role, but have gone on, gotten experience outside of the district after being with us in that intern type role, and then who are coming back and applying?
I can think of a handful, Mr. Valentine, where we've had people either apply or they've come back and become an administrator, but we've had lots of examples of people that have served in that role, gone into other districts because, at least in the past, to be moved from an administrative intern to be an assistant principal or be a principal, it's very competitive. Mm-hmm. We've had people that have left that role, gone on to other districts, and then come back. I can think of a few examples of people that have done that. Even our own department, Samantha Althouse is somebody that had served at one point as an administrative intern, left, eventually came back. So I don't have an exact number, but I can think of at least some anecdotal, instances of people that have done that to advance their career.
Do you think it's pretty consistent? Like, I'm not saying in large numbers, but consistent each time, relatively, each time we have an opening?
Yeah, I think, well, I will say this, I think the administrative intern role is pretty unique. There's only a few districts that offer a role like that, so it's a great training platform, and so I think it's a good platform for folks to get administrative experience. They have the protection of being on a leave of absence from Dublin City Schools, so if it doesn't work out, they can return to the classroom, but I think that there's some pretty, it's pretty significant that we've had people come back to the district once they've gotten some experience elsewhere.
Awesome. Thank you.
Yeah.
I also think it's worthy to note that we have people who have done the administrative intern and did go back to the classroom by their own choice and are perfectly happy after trying being an administrator and thought, yeah, this isn't for me, and they still had the protection of being a Dublin employee and a teacher here. One other thing I'll bring to your attention, it was fun today. Getting off the elevator were a group of people who I thought were students, but they were going to HR. Well, they are our students. Some of the classified folks for the summer school in special ed are parapros who have gotten their parapro license through our Dublin Teacher Academy, and they'll be employed this summer helping in summer school as parapros. And there's no better way to learn how to be a teacher than actually teaching people. So kudos to that program and to Mr. Andres for reaching out. And we can never have enough parapros. So this is a win-win for our students and for our program. And it's just exciting to see those opportunities for students.
It's crazy you say that, and this is just a small story. We had a first-time babysitter last night, and we were talking with her. She's graduating from SIOTA here in about a month, but we were talking to her about the peer side of that because there's a student component to it, and our daughter got invited to do it actually through Gretchen Taylor. But we began talking about it, and she brought up this very thing where she's in DTA and that she was going to be over at Bailey this summer, and she was going to be in a part of this. So we got into a whole discussion last night about this, and I'm not doing that. We didn't know this going into this discussion, but I think it's fascinating to end up hearing it from the, I guess, student-adult perspective, and then to hear it from our end as well.
And we've also hired Ohio State teacher education students now to be substitutes and to be parapros. And we're kudos to Mr. Boney and his team because it was a challenge today because some of those young people aren't 18 yet, so mom and dad had to come. An adult had to come so they could get fingerprinted and get their background checks because you have to be an adult to do that unless your parents are there. So our HR department has been bending over backwards to make this happen. So thank you, and we continue to make great opportunities for young people.
Thank you.
Okay, it is recommended by the superintendent that the board approve items 11A through 11D. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Moved by Mrs. De Silva. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mrs. Messick. Call the roll, please.
Mrs. De Silva?
Yes.
Mrs. Messig?
Yes.
Mrs. Gillis?
Yes.
Mr. Valentine?
Yes.
And Mrs. Rigby?
Yes. Motion passes 5-0. Anything for future agenda items? Okay, is there a motion to adjourn the meeting?
So moved.
Moved by Mrs. De Silva.
Second.
Second by Mr. Valentine. All those in favor? Say aye. Anyone opposed? Meeting is adjourned.